The CX Pod is brought to you by Netigate. Netigate helps you put your customers at the center of your business. Check them out at netigate.net.
Welcome to the CX Pod, where we aim to expand people's perception of customer experience management. We know that customer experience goes hand in hand with employee experience, and we believe that a broader and more holistic view might even replace terms like CX and EX with people experience or human experience.
Hey, and welcome to the CX Pod once again. I am here today with the world-famous Joanna. Welcome.
Hello. Hi, Merete.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. It's not a glorious day here as it is with you, as you're saying in Oslo, Norway, but in Tønsberg, Norway, it's not so great weather yet today. But no, I'm doing great. Got a busy day ahead because as we're recording this session, we're also in the middle of judging on the International Customer Experience Awards. I'm today looking forward to a fantastic, inspiring day.
But I mean, Tønsberg, Norway has its own sunshine, and that's you. I see, you're shining, and also I see your name all over LinkedIn these days, obviously because of the awards as well. So many things happening. But let's move to the guest, Michael Brandt. A warm-hearted welcome to you as well to the CX Pod.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. Glad to see you both.
Yeah, great to see you, Michael. Sorry, Merete.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead, Joanna.
Yeah, Michael, we've met quite a few years back, actually, and we've had the pleasure of working together on community initiatives within the customer experience space. So
exactly.
Absolutely amazing that you said yes to be a guest on the CX Pod. So thank you for that.
My pleasure. Couldn't say no to you, Joanna.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can't say no to Joanna.
I know.
And also, it's such a pleasure because, I think we've told you, or I hope we told you, and all of our listeners, we only invite guests that we actually look up to and admire for their work in the CX sphere. And also, having sort of left a footprint or even an impression on not just us, but I suppose a lot of people. So it is a true pleasure to have you, and I'm so excited that we're going to be able to pick your brain a little bit today on our question challenge.
Thank you very much, Merete. I'm starting to blush, but
we can see that on the camera. Yeah, you see it. So to the listeners who don't know you that well, Michael, who are you?
Okay, so I was born in the UK, moved to Switzerland when I was 11 to Geneva. Went to high school in Geneva, then went to university in Zurich. So learned German, learned French, and then I went into the airline business for a few years, which was really interesting. It was my passion. Aviation was my passion, and that seemed like where I wanted to be. But it was a bit of a roller coaster, professional roller coaster, as airlines are. They're very cyclical along with the economy. So I went to work for an engineering company, ABB, which is well known in Scandinavia, of course.
Absolutely.
And I was with them for 25 years. I started off in technology transfer, so something which was rather dry. It's all about contracts. But then I had the opportunity to spend 7 years in Japan as the head of a joint venture company there. And that got me into customer experience, because if there's one country that's understood, that has it in their DNA when it comes to customer experience, it's Japan. And I learned so much there, and it was such an eye-opener. And then I came back to Switzerland, and I was asked to put together a voice of customer program for the business unit that I was working for. And that then developed into something a lot bigger. And finally, a couple of years later, I took over the whole of the voice of customer program for ABB globally, as well as their complaint management program, which was very much customer oriented, obviously. And then I left ABB in 2020 and set myself up doing training and consulting in the CX space. I moved from Zurich to the sunny Italian-speaking part of Switzerland, down near Lugano. So and that's what I'm doing now, and enjoying it. I'm my own boss, and that's a great feeling.
That sounds fantastic. Can I join you?
Anytime.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, and I was just, and because you mentioned complaint handling, right? And this is a topic that also came up during my judging experience yesterday at the International CX Awards, which, because it's so, I mean, I think sometimes people see customer experience as something very different, but I do believe that a lot of the improvement initiatives that we can identify and start with comes from complaint handling, because it's basically voice of the customer without
Sure.
asking the customer, right? So I just
Absolutely.
wanted to ask you a little bit on, how big a part is that of what you do? Like, how much do you use that today in the day-to-day work? Because it's just a topic that interests me at the moment. So it's
No,
not really a
sure.
question in the challenge even, but
I think the
I'm
complaint.
already sort of railing off here.
It's okay. Hey, let's agile, flexible. No, so I think complaint management is really important. And actually, we recognize that at ABB because we folded the complaint management program into the voice of customer program. They both basically fed into the same database so that we could track how these issues were being resolved. So following up with the customer, following feedback on a survey, but also regular complaints. I mean, feedback from a survey was basically treated as negative feedback anyway. It was treated as a complaint. It had to be dealt with. And so that they fed into the same database and we dealt with them like that. The one thing I would say, the big learning from that whole experience was that communication is 75% of the problem.
Yeah.
Proactive communication towards customers, telling them that you received the complaint, that you're working on it, and going back to them when you found a solution is really the most significant part of the whole exercise, and that can make or break your relationship with the customer. Customers are far willing to accept a longer resolution time if you go back to them and explain to them that you're working on the issue, but it might be a little bit more complex or whatever, as long as you communicate with them. And that is something, to be honest, that I think most companies have real trouble with. They just don't communicate.
Yeah, and the analogy for that I love to use is the restaurant experience, right? If you're just sitting there waiting for your food and nobody tells you anything, how would you feel? Like, how would you feel as a paying
Exactly.
guest in a restaurant?
That's it.
But if the waiter comes over and said, look, we actually screwed up your steak, we're going to have to do it again. It's going to take us another 10 to 15 minutes. You may not be impressed, but at least you know what's going on and you feel like you're being dealt with in a polite manner.
Exactly. I mean, it's managing expectations, right? You know what to expect. And I think that is really important,
Great. And I love that you took it into the Voice of the Customer program and actually dealt with even the survey responses as a complaint, because that's a brilliant way to approach it. And any sort of customer feedback, good or bad, is sort of maybe not the deviation, but any call to customer service or any sort of attempt to fix something on the website or with a chatbot, it is a deviation of some kind because the customer needs input.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And of course, it allowed us to track it. We could track, we could see how's it, and obviously, see who was doing their job correctly and who wasn't. It was a question of giving us the ability to focus in on areas and say, look, you're not communicating well enough. You need to make more of an effort here. So, and customers appreciated it. We could tell, from that feedback.
Yeah. Michael, I would love to dig a little bit more into who you are, but more into what would you say is your field of expertise today? I hear voice of the customer, but I want you to say it.
I would say
elaborate, she says.
Voice of customer, certainly, because I have very, very strong views on how that can be done. I see so many people saying, NPS is dead, etc., etc. I don't think it is, right? I think it's like with any metric, it's a question of using it appropriately and also doing it properly. Just asking the NPS question, just like asking this just CSAT question or customer effort score question, that alone is no use. You have to go after the drivers and find out why you get the score that you do. And so many people seem to forget that. And of course, then they chase the score and don't look for the fundamentals. That voice of customer is something that I consider an area of expertise and something that I feel very strongly about. Customer journey mapping is also really important to me, and mixing the two. So ensuring that the voice of customer goes into your customer journey maps so that you can see, where, what touch points need work on. Customer centricity, so sustaining customer centricity within an organization, that customer centric culture. Those are, I would say, the three main pillars from a customer experience point of view. And then, of course, just from my experience, team management. Because my time at ABB, I was managing teams remotely. I'd say that's another one of my areas, my skills, so team management across remote teams and also on site. So
Yeah.
So you
I
sort
can
of
imagine. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's just I get eager because you mentioned both, customer centricity. You talk about the voice of the customer program, the customer journeys, and I think we can agree that we don't even have to ask the question, what's your definition of customer experience? Because I already feel like you sort of covered most of it. But what is interesting, I think, is you also talk about team management and especially mentioning the customer centricity and the culture. One of our questions is, who do you think should be responsible for customer experience then in an organization? Based on your experience.
So I don't think it's not a one size fits all answer, really. I think it depends very much on the organization. When I first started off within ABB, I was parked in the group accounts management department. So this was a department that looked after our 30 most important global accounts. And that's where I was parked. I guess you could say that showed to a certain extent how important it was for ABB, because that was an important group of people. It was our 30 biggest customers, and for a company like ABB, that was important. I then got moved due to restructuring. I was then moved to the Quality and Operational Excellence department, which also had its place because this was very much about processes. Also, streamlining processes from a customer perspective. So I think it depends very much on the organization and where it fits best.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, there's the saying that we keep seeing on LinkedIn, everybody's responsible for customer experience. Well, of course they are, right? But you need somebody to drive it. And I think the important thing is that, and people say this person needs to have the authority to do it. So they need to be able to direct people. I found that's not necessarily the case. I think that if you're in the CX position and you tell people what to do, you're creating resistance. People don't like being told what to do, right? I think it's more, you have to be more in a support role, going to people and saying, you know what, I have some ideas how you could improve your business, and it would be beneficial to you. Do you want to sit down and talk about it? And I think that tends to get a lot more traction than someone coming in and saying, I think I know things better than you. And nobody likes somebody to come in and tell them that they don't know what they're doing.
I did that yesterday, actually, just as an example, and I got my head cut off. Well, not cut off, but I got probably a well-deserved feedback. The way it was presented wasn't maybe the way I would have done it. No, apart from that, no, because I came in and I'm so frustrated because we're working with this issue for so long and it doesn't seem to be repaired, right? And the people who are responsible to do it they don't seem to understand, and they don't seem to think about, the effect it has on the customers. So I sort of built up and came into a meeting frustrated, and it ended up just like you said. Nobody likes to be put in the corner.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So we have to be so careful on how we approach the problems that we're trying to solve with the people who have the ability to solve them.
I think the first question, I look at CX as a bit as a change management exercise, right? Because you want to change the way people work, you want to change their mindset to become more customer centric. And the one question when it comes to change management that's always so important to consider and to have the answer ready is, what's in it for me? Right? If you want people to change the way they do things, you've got to be able to explain to them what's in it for them. Right?
Yeah.
What's the benefit to them? Why should I bother changing if there's no benefit to me? Right? So I mean, it's in a way it's very egocentric, but you have to tell people what their benefit is, and once you do that, then I think you have a better chance of getting them on board than if you just come in and say you got to change. Well, I do. Okay.
Yeah, Michael, I think what you're saying now is probably one of the greatest golden nuggets we've had on the episode so far, because we do often struggle a little bit with this question, who should be responsible. And I think it is purely because, as you say, there is no one size fits all. But I think, that what you're saying or telling us about, it's more about the role of being a support instead of being I'm driving this and this is the way that we're going to do it. I think that is such an important message to convey to anybody who is actually standing in that role today, because we sometimes fall probably victim to the fact that we're the customer's voice, and it's the most important thing we do is do things right for the customer. But of course, that's the one side of things. The other side is we're also the humans within our company's voice.
Absolutely.
So it's like, yeah, so it's such an important message. So thank you for bringing that up, Michael.
Yeah, and it's so hard to forget, right? Even, and I've worked with this for so many years, but still, proven case, I forgot yesterday or the day before when it was. So it's something we need to remind ourselves of, I think, and also, trying to remember that the people we work with as a CX, either it's a CX consultant or, internally or externally, they are our customers. So, I have to provide my customer experience for you, right? So, but it's so easy to forget. So I'm sitting here now thinking, yeah, I need to redo that meeting now, which is good, because
Yeah.
Hey, we're all human too, right? And I
We're
think,
all human. Michael, what's capturing your attention today in the business world when it comes to customer centricity?
I would say it's this mad rush to everything AI. Was on a chat recently with three gentlemen who you may know, at least some of them. So Gregorio Ulioni, the CX goalkeeper, Federico Cesconi, who's the CEO of Sansiv, and Beppe Vincenti, who's also a consultant in the Geneva area. And we were talking about AI, and I think it was Gregorio who came up with a statistic that he then documented. So like 80% of AI projects fail.
Okay, wow.
And it was absolutely amazing. I said, well, okay, why is that? Right. And I think to a large extent it's because people see AI as, wow, yes, it's a thing to do now. Let's do it. Let's do AI. All right, let's do AI. What does that mean, right?
What does that mean?
Exactly. And I think that a lot of people, a lot of companies rush into AI, not knowing actually what the objective is, what they want to achieve. They they sort of say, they kind of muddle through, and it's probably one of the easiest places at the moment to unblock funds from in any company, because everybody thinks, wow, AI, yes, snazzy, we've got to move with the times.
Yeah, it's going to solve everything.
Exactly. And I think the big problem is that a lot of companies go into that without actually thinking it through and saying, okay, what am I going to achieve with AI? And it can certainly take a lot of workload, routine work of people. And I think that is certainly where AI can do a lot of good work. If it comes, for instance, to analyzing customer feedback, right? Just looking for trends, looking for sentiment, looking for keywords, things like that. I mean, it can look through, tens of thousands of snippets of information in a very short time, and then give you an idea of where to focus and where to look. So I think it certainly has a lot of good use cases, but it has to be used correctly. It has to be used with a plan and with clear idea and clear objectives.
And just before we move on from that, because I see the opportunity now to mention our sponsor a little bit, which we obviously are very proud to have. And also, because Netigate do have the AI solution for analyzing open-end comments, for instance. And I think, the way that they have gone about trying to just simplify our jobs to be done. It's that easy, right?
Yeah.
And it's not about letting AI take over our customer support, or it's not about letting AI, do whatever AI wants to do and putting it everywhere. But they've said, look, here, this is where we can use AI. We can go through all of these open-end comments. We can categorize them. We can do what you said, the sentiment analysis, and also connect the subject to the NPS, and then see what drives the NPS up or down.
Exactly.
And it sounds sort of too simple and too good to be true, but it's actually working. So yeah, I think that's one thing with AI. And then also what you mentioned, everyone wants to use it, but they haven't really thought through what they want to use it for, and then they start implementing it in the wrong places. As the chatbot, right? It's the easiest go-to. Let's do a chatbot.
Yeah, don't get me started on chatbots.
I had a feeling you would say something like that.
Well, the best experience I had with the chatbot recently was with our telecom provider, right? That I logged onto the chatbot, and they're a pretty good deal. They take some money off the bill if you say that your first contact with customer support is via the chatbot. So I said, hey, well, I don't mind that, right? I'm tech oriented. It doesn't bother me. So I went onto the chatbot and going through the thing, and then it asked me a question and gives me 3 answers. So I took one of the answers, and then it said, I don't understand your answer. I said, well, you suggested the answer to it. Exactly. Yeah. No, you don't. So yes, the chatbot that doesn't understand itself.
Yeah. The great thing with chatbots is that it gives us the opportunity to retell the stories and have a good laugh afterwards.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And we've seen actually quite a few examples of
I'm
chatbots.
sure.
Also saying, I was just thinking about the example where Joanna and I did a speech at a this was also a telecom provider actually. And before we were just basically talking about customer experience for their customer experience team as an inspirational thing, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then beforehand, I looked into the chatbots to see how it was doing. And then we videoed it and we exemplified it for them, showing them that this is actually what your chatbot does to your customer experience. Now, I'm just trying to look up information about my latest invoice. And I was sent here and there and everywhere. And I could not, the last thing I got was information about my invoice. So they were obviously embarrassed, and we didn't do it to sort of offend them, but it's just a nice way to look. It doesn't really make me less frustrated.
Yeah.
So
no, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Chatbots are great for examples.
Some companies they say chat with a live agent, and then you got something like says Simon or Lily is joining the call, and I'm always tempted. My first question is, are you real?
Yeah.
A live agent, are you real?
What's your horoscope, or what's your zodiac sign, Simon? Just So yeah, so apart from AI and the challenge, I suppose we can say it is to implement it in the right way. What other sort of challenges do you think that companies are facing today when it comes to providing good customer experiences?
I think there's also a lot of discussion around providing the finding the ROI on customer experience, right? And that's so difficult because how do you say, okay, well, it was the product that was responsible for the increased revenue, or it was our improved customer experience that was responsible for the increase in revenue. And at ABB, I've got to say, we were very fortunate because our CEO at the time, Joe Hogan, he was very clear. It was just a question of doing things right. He said, let's just do things right. Provide the customer with a better experience, listen to the customer, and the result will follow. Right? I mean, it's a no-brainer. If you do things right, if you listen to the customer, if you fix the customer's issues, the results will follow. And so it was looked at more as a continuous improvement program and a listening program, and obvious reaction, because it was very clear to him that we didn't only need to listen, we actually had to do something with what we were hearing, which is obvious, but not always so obvious. And that was important to him. So I think.
Why do you think that? I want to dive into that, because I think it's like, what drove his interest? Like, why? What was it? Was it because he had understood customer experience? He knew that,
He did.
Because that's the cultural part, right?
Exactly.
He was the manager.
No, he was. I mean, he had just come from GE Healthcare, where he'd had a program like this, and at the time ABB we had 5 divisions, and each division and business unit did their own thing. He had no overview over what was happening within the whole organization. He said, we need this. We need to know what, and he was very blunt about it. He said, we have to be prepared to listen to some uncomfortable truths. And he was absolutely right. And we started this program, and there was a lot of skepticism within the organization, but within 2 years, the whole organization bought into it because we were hearing so many important things. And not only that, it was creating a platform for dialogue with our customers. This was the most important thing. Our customers found that we were actually listening to what they were saying. We were setting up meetings to discuss their feedback. And I think it was about 6 years down the road, we then said, okay, it's taking us more than a year very often to make the changes that we need to make. So we'll change the rhythm of this relational interview survey from every year to every 2 years. And the customers protested and said, no, we want it every year because this is a platform where we get to talk to you and you respond. And it gives us an opportunity, if you like, it's a trigger for sitting down together with you and doing like a status report. And so, yeah, that was a very interesting byproduct. I mean, our CEO at the time, say Joe Hogan, he was very enlightened in this respect. He was, and he said, this is the way it's going to be, guys, because there was a lot of skepticism within the organization. And he said, no, we're going to do this.
What a fantastic story.
I
Yeah.
mean, he was, and it was important to him. And
Yeah.
I'd be in the elevator sometimes at head office, and he didn't use his own personal elevator. He used the staff elevator. And if I was going up, he'd always say, "How's MPS going, Mike? What's going on? Where are the problems? What are the issues?" It was really important. He cared, and the factories knew. He'd go to the factory and say, "What are your MPS issues?" Not always, what's the score? He wouldn't ask what's the score. He'd say, "What are your issues? What are the customers telling you? What are you working on?" And to have that kind of backing, when you're doing a program like that, it makes it so much easier.
Amazing. One thing I'm interested in, Michael, is because today you're a consultant, so today you work with different companies. Would you say that this is a key challenge that you see of top management not having the same kind of attitude to customer experience as you experienced at ABB, or not?
I think there aren't so many that have that degree of commitment. There are some that are very committed to customer experience. I think there's still a problem that not everybody understands really what customer experience is. If you look at job descriptions for CX managers online, very often they're either glorified sales positions, account manager positions. There's still a lot of confusion, and maybe we as consultants and CX professionals, we've not done a great job in really explaining what customer experience is to a lot of people out there. So I think there's still a lot of confusion to that respect. And also this idea that everything has to have a return on investment, and I think it's really different. I know there are a lot of people out there that say, here's how to quantify your return on investment on CX, but it's not something that I'm convinced about.
I don't know if you've heard, but we keep talking about the COI, which is the cost of inaction, right?
Right.
It's going to cost you more not
Yes,
to do anything than.
Absolutely. I think that's a good point. I think it's the other way of looking at it, and I think that's far more important than the ROI. Yeah, cost of inaction.
Because I mean, and it is about, and I just love how, because what it dealt, if we take a step back and take a bigger approach to this, it's basically about the human experience, right? He cares about the customers because he cares about people. So I think, and when you care about people, it's not always about wowing them and spoiling them. Like, look at your personal relationships. You don't keep spoiling your friends all the time. That's not what you don't buy them flowers and wine every single day, but you're there and you're just, if you don't stay in touch, that's worse than if you wow them every now and then. So again, it's about having that human touch. And I think it was John Sayles who says, like, be human. Like, if in doubt, just be human. Just be human. And it's so easy, and that's what we all want, but somehow it seems to be so difficult to provide it to the customers, because when we look at it from a business perspective, all of a sudden it's soft sort of values. But everywhere else in life, it's the most important values we keep talking about. So I don't understand why it can be.
Merete.
But Merete, you hit another one of my buttons, and that is, wowing customers, exceeding customers' expectations. If we keep trying to exceed, customers' expectations, we're going to become like a dog chasing its tail. Right? You never get there. right?
You never get there.
Because once you've exceeded those expectations a couple of times, that becomes normal, you know. And it's so difficult. I think what customers want nowadays is not necessarily the wow effect. They just want to get what they expect, right? They want consistency. They want to know, I go into this website, I want to order something, I know how to do it, it's going to be easy, and I'm going to get what I ordered when I ordered it for, when they told me I'd get it. I think, you know, very often we're trying to run before we can walk, right? By wowing, you know.
I have to tell a story now about my, I think actually he died, my friend Alfonso, when I used to work in a hotel in Spain way back when I was way younger. So he was managing the pool bar at the hotel, and I was sort of coming in to take over for the summer because he was going to be in the inside bar, right? Because his degree was higher than mine, and he took that very seriously. So he said to me, one of the first things that you need to understand is that we provide good customer experience in this bar. Like, it's not shit. It's not a shit pool bar. I know it's a pool bar and I know it's for tourists, but we provide good experiences. And I follow, like, this is in my genes. So I like what he says, and I try to, embrace it and everything. So one day we're sitting in there, and it's not peak season yet. So, I have quite a lot of time, and a customer comes and he orders a drink, and I don't remember which one, but I put some extra effort into it because I have the time. There's nothing to do, and I feel like, I should give this guy a proper experience. And Alfonso comes around the corner and he sees me serving the drink, and he obviously realizes that I put way, more garniture and everything on it than normal. And he says, customer leaves, so he has to, he waits.
Yeah.
And he says, what are you doing? And I'm like, I was just trying to provide a good customer experience. Like, look how happy he was. He got some extra this. What do you think is going to happen next time he comes around to buy that drink and you're slammed and you don't have the time to do that?
Yeah.
And it was just, I was 20 years old, but it was such a good lesson to learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I keep referring to Alfonso so many times when I refer to what good experience should be, because it's about the consistency and not, like you say, the wow. So yeah, thank you for sort of reminding me of that story.
Yeah.
It's Alfonso, there you go.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Great guy.
If next time I fly, the airline wants to offer me an upgrade to first class, I'll take it, right? And I won't necessarily expect it next time I fly with them. I'll hope that I'm lucky again, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, it depends on the circumstances.
They've planted the seed, right? So now you're at least conscious, and you may get a little disappointed even if it doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, you're sort of waiting for the beep at the gate. Oh, it doesn't happen. Well, I guess I'll. Yeah, exactly. But no, you're right. Yeah.
Yes. I felt you were sort of getting ready to ask a question, Joanna. So I was waiting, because normally I will always interrupt you.
No, fire away, Merete.
No, I was just wondering, because, trying to sum this up then, what does it take to be a customer-centric company? Like, what are the key attributes?
I think you have to really get people to, I think one of the first things is you've got to be aligned. So you've got to have a customer purpose, right? What is our reason for interacting with our customers? What do we provide to our customers, right? What's our reason for being, if you like? And it's not so much, the corporate vision or something, which are very often very, sort of reach for the stars kind of thing. It's down to earth. What are we providing to our customers? And then based on that, to have 3 or 4 principles, right, that really impact your ways of working. So what could these, and these will be different from company to company, and it'll depend very much on customer feedback that you get. If you analyze and say, what's important to our customers? Is it being innovative? Is it being trustworthy? Is it being reliable? Right? And then to have these principles and say, okay, these are the 3 or 4 guiding principles for the way that we interact with our customers. And then to ensure that these are also reflected in the ways of working. And then to get people within the organization aligned to say, these are the key issues for our customer. All right, these are the key things, the things that we need to look at, and to ensure then that the ways of working reflect these principles. But it's also, we talk about, the customer-centric mindset. What does that entail? It entails collaboration, breaking down silos, working together. Because very often, the problem with the customer journeys is precisely the interfaces from one part of the organization to another. That's where people tend to, fall between the cracks, right?
Yeah.
It's recognizing success and positive contribution. It's sharing knowledge. I worked in an organization where sales and account managers kept the information to themselves because knowledge is power.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to share because it might mean that I lose control of that customer. If he might have worked for another part of the organization that I'm not responsible for, but I don't want to lose the monopoly of that contact. So I just don't share, right? So it's also a question of being, more open, being prepared to experiment. I know we say think outside the box. Yeah, okay. If you can be creative, that's fine. But sometimes, we have ideas and say, that's not going to work. Well, why won't it work? Well, it's a risk. Okay. But there's such a thing as a calculated risk. Well, let's try it. Let's see how it works. So being prepared to fail. Right. Somebody, I was giving a course recently, and one of the participants came up with this acronym, which I really liked, and said, "Fail means first attempt in learning."
Yeah.
And I like that. It's we have to be prepared to try stuff, right? And maybe fail. Failure shouldn't be always seen as a huge negative. I mean, some of the biggest failures have actually turned into really great successes. If you look at, for instance, Post-it notes, right? That was the result of a failure, right? This glue was supposed to be something which actually stuck well. It didn't. And then someone realized actually we could use that for something else. And that's how, 3M, came into the Post-it notes. So failure and there's another one which is more famous, and I couldn't possibly comment on its veracity or not, but Viagra was apparently originally it was a pill for blood pressure.
Really?
Yeah, and now of course its use is completely different. But
it's completely different things.
So you see, there are failure can also be success.
Yeah. But I think in today's society, I don't know, like in Switzerland, but in Norway, I suppose, I feel the pressure of always delivering. And, when it comes to customer experiences and customer support and stuff, we say, make it right the first time, right?
Yeah.
So we're so obsessed. But I think we need to be able to see the difference between making it right with the customer the first time, but also understanding that if we fail, that's actually okay as long as we fix it. But then also it's like this. It's like we keep saying that fail fast is, and we're supposed to be implementing that into our culture and strategies, but I don't see it. I don't see that companies enable or allow their employees to fail in such a degree that we like to sort of brag about. So I think the room for innovation, and I'm not sure even if innovation is the right word, but just experimentation.
Yeah.
Because we are so, the focus on ROI is so big. So we don't have this arm space to even sort of, and then we're losing so many great ideas, I think, because we're so busy doing the most important things with way too less resources and capacity. So I mean, I hear we talk about it, and I feel it's been a buzzword, and I've seen a few examples of companies doing it, and the irony is that it's the small companies who are actually innovative, the ones that don't have a lot of resources. So it's like the bigger you grow, the less agile you become, and it's frustrating.
I think you have a comparison between a yacht and a supertanker.
Yeah.
Right. The small companies, the yachts, right, and you can move them. They're very agile, and and a supertanker, to get a supertanker to turn, you need miles and miles. Exactly. Well, you're not turning anywhere there, but and this is the issue. And another thing is, let's face it, particularly in today's economic climate, people results. Right. I mean, I had, and this is years ago. I was talking to a unit. I can't remember whether they were in the Far East. That's right. And they were saying, yeah, our bosses say, first you sell, you collect, and then afterwards, if you've still got time, you can deal with the customer stuff.
Yeah.
Right. It's sell and collect. Right. Because we need to, hit our targets. Right,
Yeah.
and in many cases, the pressure is so great to hit those targets that there's not a lot of time left over for the other stuff, and that's a pity because it's just as important. Right?
Yeah, and then we see the companies who have, and I know Joanna's going to love this take as well, because you see the companies who've understood that they cannot just, target and then collect, and then they keep adding something like, and then we have the best customer service, or then we will always take care of you, or and it's basically we've come as far as this, so they understand it's important, but they don't plan to do anything about it. It's just a thing that they sell through the brand. So it's what we call the CX washing.
Yeah. The other thing about failure is, I think that so many companies just cannot stand up to their mistakes. How often have you heard when you've complained about something, oh, that's the first time we've heard about this?
Yeah.
And you go, oh, that's rubbish. Come on, I'm not so extraordinary that I managed to do something with my toaster that it's it's the first. I don't believe it, right? And it's just not credible, and you think to yourself,
this doesn't happen at our place.
Exactly.
I got that one.
I'm thinking of
This doesn't happen with us, so you must have been very unlucky.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you. That helps. I'm that unlucky, and still you won't help me. So yeah. All right. So we need to move on a little bit, and this is a question I've been wanting to ask, because one of your fields of expertise is the voice of the customer program.
Yeah, sure.
I would like to hear your take on. I mean, we talked a little bit about it, but just where we are today, how do you see this developing in the future? Like, is there still room for voice of the customer programs, and how do you see them creating value going forward?
Look, I think there is, but I think they have to be done in a serious manner, right? And so many surveys today, you just get them, you grow and you look at them and you delete them because there's no substance behind them, right? Nobody's going to listen to them. Nobody's going to listen to what you say. You're not going to get any feedback. So you say to yourself, why bother, right? You have to have a clear idea of what you want to know. So many surveys nowadays are like they're like fishing trawlers, right? Throw out a huge net, right? See how many different types of fish you can grab, and then do something with the data afterwards. That's not how it works, right? You get a 5-page survey with a progress bar. That for me is the first turn off. If I see a progress bar on a survey, I think, this is going to be too long, right?
Yeah.
So you have to, what is it that I really want to know? Focus on that, right? And then when you get the feedback, act on it, right? Actually go to customers and say, okay, this is what we're hearing. Now, obviously, in the B2C area, that's going to be a lot more difficult than a B2B. B2C, you're going to have to do it maybe through newsletters or something like that, and say, this is the feedback that we got from this survey, and this is what we're going to do about it. A survey is a good supplement, but actually in B2B, you should be looking at one-on-one conversations, right? Going to your main customers and saying, have you got an hour? We'd like to come and talk to you, and because that's where you get the golden nuggets, in one-to-one, and customers are generally prepared to spend that time talking to you, right? And one of the things that we found is that when we've done this, and it doesn't matter which of my customers we're talking about, their customers generally say, wow, it's the first time that anybody's actually wanted to sit down with me and talk to me about this, right? And I mean, it happens so rarely. And yet it's such a great tool. Not only does it allow you to get really good information, it allows you to deep dive on site. So they say something and you can expand on it. But it also shows the customer how seriously you're taking him, how much you care. And that just the conversation itself serves to strengthen that bond. So yeah, it's
yeah. And I love this saying, and this is actually something that they say at Netigate as well, like a bad customer survey could ruin a good customer experience, right?
Sure,
so
absolutely.
It's about making it right and making the customer feel that this survey is not for us to tap you for information. It's actually for us to be able to improve for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think this is the first question. If you're not going to do anything with the data, with the feedback that you get, then don't bother. because that's just going to frustrate your customer even more. You know, you have to be prepared to do something. And
I love that you're so clear about it. It's just
there has to be a process. There has to be accountability. People would come to me when I was at ABB and say, I want to serve my customers. What do you want to know? I want to know what they think about us. No, forget it. That's not anything useful.
Yeah.
You know, you need, what is it you want to know, really?
Yeah. And Michael, I know that you not only help customers with this as a consultant, I know that you also offer quite a lot of educational webinars and education within this field. And you've shared with me also previously a method you work with and your level of expertise in how to ensure that a company follows up is incredible. So I think if anybody wants to learn more about VOC programs, they should definitely get in touch with you.
Thanks, Joanna. Well, you know, I've got to say, it's I've made mistakes, right? I mean, I've been there. I've sadly, and I've failed. Yes, I've made mistakes, and I failed, and I've gone back to my development team, you know, and said, last year we made this decision, and it was a bad decision. My bad.
Yeah.
Right? Well, let's go back and rethink it.
Michael, one last question as we come in towards the end, and I'm going to take my favorite question. So now Merete's smiling.
I knew it. It's a good question.
Yeah. Were you the one trying to secure funding for customer-centric improvement initiatives within an organization? What's the first thing you would do?
The first thing I think you've got to do is to show, and I would talk, not the return on investment, but the benefit, right? And there's a difference, right? What is this going to do for a customer, right? You know, how's it going to help us? I mean, let's face it, if you do CX properly and you're listening to your customers, it can also have huge benefits for the company internally, right? One of the things, for instance, is specifically in, for instance, tech-driven companies, are we developing things that our customers aren't interested in? Right? Are we spending money where we shouldn't be spending money because nobody's interested in that anyway? And I've worked with engineers, and I know they're very proud of what they can achieve and what they can do, even if the customer doesn't actually want it. Yeah. So we and I love engineers. I mean, they're great people to work with, but nevertheless, we all have our baggage. So there are a lot of things that you can do to show senior management within an organization how CX can benefit the organization, even without necessarily talking about quantitatively, but qualitatively, and the ability to redirect resources to things that are more in demand from the customer.
Yeah, and I think this is where, again, back to the voice of the customer, and again, just throwing Navigate out there because this is what they do, right? So, the engineers may have a great idea for something that they would want themselves, but you have to sort of validate that your customer is going to want to buy it, because otherwise you have a great idea and a great product that you love, but that's about it, and that's not going to make. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking to an organization recently. They're in medical devices. And it was their product management team that wanted training on voice of the customer. And I thought that was very interesting that it was a product management team. And they were saying, well, how do we, we want to develop things we want, but we're never sure whether the customer actually wants them. So go talk to them.
Yeah.
Go and ask them. Say, we can do this, we can do that, we can do this. Which of these solutions is of interest to you?
Yeah.
Right. Rather than just going ahead and developing it without actually asking your customers whether it's actually something that they can use.
Yeah. Great points. We're going to have to wrap up for today, which is always sad because these conversations are really, really inspiring. And I really do hope that, if people want to follow you, we're going to leave a link to your LinkedIn site in the show notes. Also, if they have any questions, add them directly to us. We have an email now that's hello@thecxpod.no. You can also reach us at LinkedIn. And obviously, Michael here is also found on LinkedIn. And I do encourage everyone to follow. So, Joanna, any last famous words today from the not so sunny Tønsberg, Norway?
Yeah. No, just a huge thank you to you, Michael. Real pleasure chatting again with you. So I hope it's not too long until next time.
I hope so
Great.
too. Thank you very much, both of you, for the invitation.
Perfect. Thanks to you. So this is the CX Pod. See you again soon. Thank you for listening to the CX Pod. If you want to reach us, you can always find us on LinkedIn, and please remember to follow us on Spotify and leave a review of what you think.